This isn't your grandma's Copilot video. Now I realize I could have made a 10-minute video with a bunch of canned prompts and made it all look like magic and perfect. What I did in this video is I built a pretty complex flow that says, hey, when a new item gets created in SharePoint, find my manager and then get them to approve it, then update SharePoint and then send an email to the original creator, right? A flow that I know how to write today by hand. I do that with Copilot. I show you all the struggles, all the problems, all the workarounds, and all the really cool stuff that it does, right? So this video is very real. This is a deep dive into Copilot and the good and the bad, right? Which is what you want to know. Also, we show off the new Power Automate interface, right? So when you use Copilot to create a flow, we are going to then get a new UI for buildings. I show you some of the bugs and challenges with that, but man, it's really exciting. Like you got a standing ovation at Power Platform Conference. That's how good it is. We're also going to talk about how learning to talk to Copilots a lot like dating back in your early days. So that's a little weird, but I liked it. And finally, we just give you all that real information you need, right? So this isn't a fluffy video. It's a very practical one. It shows how awesome Copilot is, but how it is a Copilot and you've got to work for it, and how that new UI is exciting, but it's got some things you got to watch out for. Sound like fun? Then let's just switch over to my desktop and take a look. All right, so last week at Microsoft Power Platform Conference, they announced that Copilot had went live or GA. And so I think right now, though, it is still just showing up in the US, maybe one or two other regions. So it's not there for everyone yet. If you are in the US and it's not showing up, that's because your administrators turned it off. If you're in other parts of the world, like I think Europe is supposed to get it at the end of the month, start to kind of show up, so hold tight. But either way, you should still work your way through this video because you've got to start getting ready for Copilots, right? They are going to become the norm. So let's watch. So what you see right now is when I land at the homepage of Power Automate, I've now got this big blue box and it's like, hey, what should we do? And so this is how you interact with Copilot. You would jump in here and you put in your prompt, right? What is the flow that you want to build? Now they offer a bunch of descriptions, a bunch of example ones, or if we start to type in something like build me a, and right as soon as I start doing that, it starts auto suggesting, every time I type in a word, it's trying to parse and guess what I want. So definitely check these out. You'll also notice up here that it shows you your previous flows, so your flow history. So like these are ones that I've built previously, or tried previously. So you can see kind of things. These are ones you've done. These are just ones that it is suggesting. Now, instead of me typing a whole one and you having to watch, I'm gonna paste one in. Okay, so how about this? Every time someone creates an item in my SharePoint list, find the manager of the creator, send the manager an approval email, and then set the SharePoint approval status based on the manager feedback. Please, always ask please. There's only one manager. Okay, let's try this out. So we're gonna say generate. Okay, so its first suggested flow is close, right? When an item is created, get the manager, start and wait for an approval, check the condition, and then Foreach and update item. Now I know that update item can't set the SharePoint approval status. That's not gonna work, but other than this part down here at the bottom, it's pretty close. Let's try it. So let's say show a different suggestion. Because remember, this is the Copilot and Copilot. It didn't build that flow. It didn't change anything. It just said, hey, this is what I think you want me to build for you. Do you approve, right? It needs my interaction, to sign off on what it's doing. So no, that's not what I want. So show me a different suggestion. All right, now this one is way simplified. That is not right? This is only the first two steps. So let's try show a different suggestion. All right, and so the third one is, it was almost there, right? So this is correct, this is correct, this is correct, this is correct, but it put a Foreach in here. So technically this is gonna work. So I can't fault Copilot, but I wish these Foreaches weren't there. So we're gonna roll with this, but this is the whole thing, right? The give and the take. You're gonna see that as we go and build it. Now, before we say next, which would create this flow, let's go up here and talk about what I wrote. So notice up here that this is not very grammatically correct, right? Like there's a bunch of commas. And what I was trying to do is I was trying to feed it what I wanted. And I just kind of broke each up with a comma saying like, hey, build this trigger, comma, this action, comma, this action, right? That was the way I was thinking my request out. And the reason I do that is because I've been working on understanding what is Flow's love language, right? Like that sounds really weird to say, but you'll see my whole thing in a second, right? But you've got to learn to talk to Copilot or Power Automate's Copilot in the way that it wants to be talked to get the results you want, right? And so the more structured I am, the more specific I am, the more detailed I am, the better off I'm going to be. Now, I equate this back to, my early 20s when I was in bars trying to meet people, right? When I first got there, I had no idea how to talk to the people. And so I tried things, right? I was like, all right, hey, what's your sign? drink in the face, right? Oh, all right, well, that doesn't work. Then, hey, come here often, drink in the face. Though that did work for me one time. Shh. Anyway, that didn't work, right? So I tried some things, then I finally said, hey, my name's Shane, what's yours? And I found out, ding, 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 that got me to the next prompt, right? The next interaction where I could then screw it up. But that was how I learned, right? When you're doing Copilot, it's the same story for you. You have got to learn to talk to Copilot, and the only way to do it is to practice. So by practicing and having these conversations, you start to learn, hey, if I structure my request this way, right? You figure out how you and Flow speak the same language that, you guys can get to a good end result. That's what I'm doing here. So I just want you to kind of think about that as you're working through these and you're trying things. Like, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to figure out things do and don't work. Like, for example, I added this, there's only one manager here, because most of the time when I prompt it, that would make it not put this Foreach down here. This time when I'm recording, of course, it decided to put the Foreach in there. It ignored my, quest not to have a Foreach down there. That's okay though. I'm trying to figure it out. So eventually I'll figure out what is the right way to say to completely avoid that. I haven't got there today, but me and Flo, we're working on our love language. So that is something that you should be doing with all the Copilots you've got access to, right? I talk to ChatGPT every day. Me and it, we're besties. We know how to talk to each other. Power Automate Copilot. This is like the third time in my life I've talked to it. I'm still figuring out what it wants. Microsoft's going to have, I think they currently have 155 different Copilots. You're going to have to learn to have these conversations. But the same way that when I was trying to meet someone in a bar, the conversation was different than trying to meet them at the grocery store or at the gas station, right? And so it's the same, right? There was very similar conversations, but it had a little bit of a different flair, a little bit less cheesiness maybe when you're in different places. So you kind of have to do that same thinking, right? So there you go. How to meet people and how to talk to Copilot all in one lesson. Greatest video ever, right? Hit the like button. Tell me you like that. Anyway, all right. So now that we've got this, we're going to try it. We're going to see what happens. So we're going to say next. And so here it's just saying, hey, okay, so I'm going to use these connectors. It had to make sure that I had all of the account access for all that. I do. So I had all the green checks. So now we say create flow. So this is when your flow gets built. And oh my goodness, how fast did it get built? Now be careful. See over here where it says connecting to apps and services. Even though it's built, it's not done. You want to kind of wait a second, because if you start clicking too fast, right? Like see now it's like it's found all the things that needs to be updated. Now it's ready for you to interact. If you just wait that 10 seconds, you'll not start clicking and then get thrown out of it. You also might notice that, look, this is a new Flow Designer UI, right? Like, look, finally we got pluses and minuses over here. So we can zoom in and out. We can see the whole thing. We can search inside of here. We can even go with a little map and find out where we're at. That's pretty cool, Microsoft. Good job there. We're going to talk about this new UI a little bit as we go. Okay. Oh, I don't want any of this. I want back to my normal view. Thank you. Oh, see, I'm learning how to use these things all the time myself. Okay. So now when you click on an action, it throws you over here. You got a lot more room to do these actions. And so what site do I want? Well, we want our good old Power Apps videos. And then what list name? We want employees. And if we scroll down here, there they are. Okay. Now, if I had other parameters I wanted to use, then I could say show all here, and this would show me the additional parameters. I can clear all those. Once again, the same way we talk about, in my training classes, like when you get into here, you always want you to explore, plant seeds, what's possible. Start clicking these buttons. Like, I honestly don't know. Well, there's about, it's just some words, right? Here's the code view. This is what we used to call peak view. Settings, like there's some different stuff in here that I haven't seen before. I am not trying to learn that right now, but I know there's some more stuff I need to come in here and play with later. This one looks good. Now if we look at Get Manager, let's click in here. And anytime that you do this, right, I want you to double check it, okay? So it says, hey, for the UPN I used, if we hover, it's the body created by. Now, I am 99% sure that is not going to work. Why? Because body created by is the person record that created it. The Get Manager doesn't want the person record. It really just wants their email address. So even though it's not mad, other than the red line for the spelling being wrong, we're going to X out of here. We're going to click in here and we're going to click right here. This is how you're going to invoke dynamic content. And so now if we look in here under created by, right, there's a whole bunch with that. And so all of this was coming back. That's why it wasn't going to work. But if we say created by email, so if we replace it, that should fill in the Get Manager for us as well. Now we're going to go here. start and wait for approval. So it's going to need some input from us. So we're going to hit the drop down and we're going to say, which one do you want? Approve, reject, first to respond. Everyone must respond. We're only going to have one. So I'm just going to say first to respond. Doesn't matter. Okay. When we do that, here are all the pieces. Now you're going to have to fill in the blanks for yourself, but we're going to do something simple like, check out the new employee. And so then here we just want dynamic content. So we hit the lightning bolt again. And then if we just search in here, we're just going to use title, right? So just check out the new employee title. Just the same way we've always done it. Assign to. Now, we could do dynamic content, right? And we know that it is actually the mail field from Get Manager, but what if you wanted help with this, right? Copilot can help with this. So we're going to jump over to Copilot and we're going to ask, will you please set the assign to field of start and wait for an approval to be the manager's email? And then we're going to hit enter. Now, once again, this is me trying to speak its love language. I'm being hyper specific. I'm guessing over time I'll learn how to ask it for that in less words and more specifically. But right now, I want it to work. I want to learn. And so I am going to be very specific. And so look, it said, hey, I did this all for you, right? And I could undo. So if I don't like what it did, I could undo it. We're going to soldier, let's go check Get Manager. Oh, that one's good. Let's check this one. And so look, it put the mail address in there. It knew that the Get Manager thing's email address is returned as the mail property. So it filled in the blank for us. That's pretty cool. Okay, let's try something a little harder. So now in the details of our approval, we're going to ask something like this. Please approve this before. And now what I want to put here is today, I want to put right now plus 7 days. Okay. So look, there's the lovely little FX, a new expression editor. Look at this. I can resize it. Look at this. I can expand it. Oh my goodness. I know, right? Like I can't tell you guys, I was at Power Platform Conference, and when Charles did that during the demo, or wasn't Charles, it was someone else during Charles's keynote. But anyway, it was like a standing ovation. Like people lost their minds. How long have we waited for a formula bar that was actually usable? Oh, moment of silence. Anyway, so we could write the formula, and I know the formula, but let's see if we can get our friend Copilot to do it. We're going to jump over here and I'm going to try this. Can you write a Power Automate expression using functions to add 7 days to the current date? Well, let's hit submit. Look at that. Add days UTC now 7. That's what I wanted. Oh my goodness, right? Back to speaking the love language. I probably spent an hour figuring out how to tailor that query the way that I wanted. And, I figured out things like you got to say you want a Power Automate expression, or it's not afraid to make up a language. Like it wrote me some Python looking stuff one time, right? So you got to be very specific. I want a Power Automate expression. I said using functions, right? Like, hey, use things that we know how to do. And then to add 7 days to the current date and time, right? Like be prepared the first time you ask it the right expression. It's probably not going to do it right, but it's not that it doesn't know how to do it right. It's you don't know how to ask it correctly, okay? Like there's this dance that you're going to have to do. Thankfully, that dance does work. Speaking of being prepared, I am preparing a Copilot training class, right? It's going to be about all the different Copilots. It's going to include ChatGPT and probably some of the other AI tools as well. We're going to have this class. It's coming up soon. If you're interested in being one of the first people to know about the class and signing up for that first one that'll sell out, then shoot me an email, copilot@powerapps911.com. I will put you on the list. And when the class is ready and actually have a landing page you can sign up on, I will shoot you a note. All right, back to the video. Okay, so now what would I do? I would copy this and then we'd go over here. Now don't just paste it right here or it would just put that text in there. That would not be helpful. Control Z. You'd now say FX. You would paste that in and you'd say add. And if it adds, you know that the syntax is right. So sometimes I would add it and it would yell at me and it was because the formula was wonky donkey. It happens, right? But you're going to get there. Now, you also might be saying, well, Shane, I kind of want that to be look a little bit nicer. So then now you could go down here. We'll try this one time. If it doesn't work, we're not going to fight it. We'll try this. Please update this expression, add days UTC now 7, to format the output in the long date time format. All right. I don't know what's going to happen. I did not practice this, but all the demos went so well. I felt like I needed to break something. So let's hit it. Okay. And so it says, hey, I don't understand your question. So that happens. So now what I would need to do is figure out what is the right way to do it. I can tell you yesterday in one of my runs, like I was able to ask it the right way and it was able to do it. But for today, I don't know exactly how. Like one of the times it used the flow action, one of the times it updated the expression. Because remember, really the answer to this is it would look like this and you go comma, and then it would have been capital F like that. That's that particular format. And so that's what I was hoping for. Another time it did it, it recreated the format. So you've got to work on prompting. I'm gonna leave that as homework for all of you to go figure out how to do it, but that is how I would update that. And we'll just go over here though and change this one and add the F in. That sounded bad, but it's not. Okay, we'll say update. There you go, right? So we got that in there. Now we can add the item link, item description. I'm done with, adding stuff here, right? But we've got to start in a way for approval looking the way that we want within reason, right? And you could continue to expand. All right, now it's time to be brave. So we're going to scroll down here. And so we know that the condition, so if we click on the condition, well, right now the condition expression is blank, boo. So what do we need to do? We're going to say dynamic content. The outcome is equal to approve. Okay, so that's what that should look like. And so then in here, we've got a for each. And it's, right, we don't even want the for each. This is where I really struggle. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to click on this. I'm going to drag it out of the for each, but leave it inside the true. And now we're going to delete this guy, right? So the ellipses right here. Oh, we'll click here, we'll say delete. Are you sure you want to delete for each? Just remove all child steps. Okay. All right, perfect. Same thing over here. We're going to drag this out first. And then we're going to go into here. We're going to hit the delete button. Or this time we'll use the ellipses up here. So we'll use these deletes, say okay. Okay, so this is the way I wanted the flow to work. Now we just need to go here. And so we got to fill in the blanks. Now, Microsoft, if you're watching, I know you're watching, will you change this? Like it should know, like Flow in general should just know that when I put this up here and I'm referencing it down here, like these should have filled in for me. That would be so nice of you. Could you make that happen, please? Yeah, probably not, but I asked. Okay, so there's that one. We'll go over here. We'll do the same thing for this one. And so we'll change this to videos and employees as well. Right, and they got the action set up right, to reject and approve. So I think that looks good. Now up here, it named the flow your prompt. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we should call this Copilot video. It seems really big. Okay, now a couple of things I want you to perk up on here as we're about to do this. First, right, our flow's never been saved, so we need to do a save before we can do our tests. So that's the first thing. So let's hit save. Now, save is going to take longer than it used to. I don't know if this is a Shane problem or a new interface problem, or I don't know why, but it takes longer. But basically, you've just got to sit here and be patient until the green bar pops up at the top that tells you it's been successfully saved. So, all right, so I cut out about 5 or 6 more seconds of waiting. Okay, so now it's saved. Now we want to test it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go here to test. This interface is going to be exactly the same. So we're going to do a manual test and we're going to say test. Okay, now I'm going to open up a browser as Chewy, right? So Chewy's got the green bar up here at the top, right? Chewy's cute face over here. And we're going to have Chewy do it because I'm his manager. We want me to get the approval. So we're going to say new and we're going to say Chewy was here and we're going to say save. Okay, so that should make the flow happy. Now, another thing I've been noticing is that these tests, this new interface for testing, it takes longer to poll sometimes. This might just be Shane making it up, but I feel like I have to sit here longer. So I'm gonna wait until this refreshes before we continue. Okay, so I waited about 20 seconds. You can see we got check mark. And so now let's start and wait for an approval. So if we go look at approvals and refresh right here, all right, and there's our approval. Check out the new employee, Chewy was here. We'll click on it. We'll see our nice little message over here. Like we didn't put the link or any of that in here. It doesn't matter. Choose your response. We'll say approved. We'll click confirm. After a couple of seconds, it's successfully recorded. And then we'll say done. And now if we switch back over here, your flow ran successfully. You can see it took me 5.5 minutes to finally click on the right thing because I'm a slacker. That was me, not Flow's fault. And then it went down the true path. It set the status to approved. Ding. Perfect, right? It did what we wanted. So that tells us we did good things. Now, so I went back into edit here. Notice when we come back into edit, a couple of things. The most important one I want you to notice is notice over here in Copilot, it doesn't have our conversation. It doesn't have that formula we wrote. It doesn't have any of the previous context. It only keeps your initial prompt, not all the other ones. So that's a good thing and a bad thing. For me, it's a bad thing, right? Like it doesn't have my history of all of our conversation, kind of like ChatGPT does. So I can't go back and see what we talked about, how I asked it before. That's why I keep having to relearn my love language, because I figure it out and then I don't save it. But keep that in mind. Every time that you test, right, you're leaving this page. Every time you leave this page, this over here starts over a new conversation. So it loses that context. Very important note. Okay. So if we scroll down here, I'm feeling really good about this. We got all those things knocked out. So now let's try the next thing. So the last piece of this puzzle is I want to have it send an email to the original creator. So in this case, Chewy, saying, hey, here's the outcome, right? So let's go over here to Copilot and ask it. All right, let's try this, right? So at the end of the flow, please send an Outlook email to the original creator telling them the outcome of the process, right? Notice I had an Outlook email. I don't want to take a chance that it decides to use one of the other mail tools, right? So it's just easier to write Outlook there instead of telling it, to do it differently. Once again, learning its love language. I'm not even saying it would have used a different tool, but why even risk it? I know that's what I want to use. Tell it. Okay, so after a couple seconds, look at this. It updated the actions, the condition. It's sent an email. Now notice right now it's not there yet. Remember, it's not really there. Like, don't go forward until it shows up down here at the bottom, right? It's refreshed a couple of times. Now it's there. That got me a couple of times. Like, oh, where is it? It told me it did it. Patience, grasshopper. Patience. Okay. Send an email. Okay. Now if we look at the two, notice this time it did body, author, email. So it dug down. It didn't try to send it to the whole created by. It's sending it to the specific email. So that's going to work. I feel pretty good that that is the right dynamic content. If you're not sure, X out of there and add the right thing yourself. But I'm pretty sure that's the right one. Subject's outcome of the process. Fine with me. Okay. Now this is a mistake that it's made in all of my runs. Notice here that it's like, hey, I'm going to use this formula, but I'm pretty sure that we can't just leave this formula here, right? Like, we can try, but what do we know, right? Is that a formula or is that really just all that text? It's really just all that text, right? That is not an equation, but you know what? Just to give Copilot a go, we're going to give it a go. Pause, pay attention. Oh yeah, I'm sorry I yelled, but this got me earlier. So this new interface, earlier today, I clicked on test without hitting save, and it ran. And you know what it did not do? It did not save my work, and I got to do all this again. We don't want that, right? I don't know if that's a bug, if that's working as designed. I don't know the specifics of that, but it felt really awkward, and so that's why I yelled at you to make sure that you're paying attention here. So let's go ahead and just hit save. Perfect, right? So when I hit save, it's like, wait a minute, the input parameters of operation send an email are wrong, right? So it's telling me like, hey, I don't know what this is. Because if you look at it closely, it is wrong, right? And the first thing I see that is wrong, so we'll just try to fix one, is that we know that in flow, these should be single quotes around text, not double quotes. So let's just try changing that, see if that makes it any happier. I don't think it will, but we'll try. So we'll say save again. All right, it's saved. I did not expect that to happen. So now that it's saved, let's do a test. Automatically test with a recently used trigger. Succeeded, and we'll say test, right? That just stops us from having to do that step where we created as Chewy again. You probably knew that already, but just to remind you. So what it should do is jump straight to sending me an approval. So if we go over here and we do a refresh, there should be an approval that came in a few seconds ago, 14 seconds ago. That seems right. So we'll click on that. Yep, that looks like my thing. So we'll say approve again, and we'll say confirm. All right, so far so good. Back over here. Remember, green check marks are good. Those are all things happening. Yes, 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 yes. Remember, this gray check mark, that is not bad. Gray dashes, I guess not check marks, but gray dashes means I didn't need to do that. It was skipped. Red is bad. Green, good. Gray, fine. Or also, gray is good, right? Because it was supposed to be skipped, and red would be bad. So it says it sent an email. All right, let's check Chewy's email. So Chewy is a green browser, right? So we'll go here, outcome of the process at 1:27. Okay, well, that was fun. We just had a power outage and I thought I lost everything and I mostly got it back. So, you ever think you want to be a YouTuber? It's stressful. Anyway, so before the power went out, we saw that this email was here, but it's not right? Like, we don't want these words. We actually wanted this outcome. So what we're going to do, we're going to switch back over here. We're going to click back on our send an email. And so that actually looks like a valid expression. I'm not positive it's right, but I'm going to say Control X. Okay, for some reason it won't let me copy it. That's all right. We'll cheat. We'll go to code view. I bet I can copy it out of here. So I don't want the at. I think I just want from the if to there. So we'll say Control C there. Now we'll go back over here Now we will delete it. It won't let me delete it. It won't let me copy or paste or cut. Who knows, right? It did before, so this is probably a Shane thing. And right, so let's just try pasting in what we have, say add. And so here it says the expression is invalid. Now, I think the reason for that is I think right here, it tried to put the dynamic content in here, but it isn't written quite right. So let's delete that out. And then let's go right here to dynamic content and then say we want the outcome, right? So we'll say outcome. All right, so see how it's written slightly different? I think that's right. We'll say add. All right, so that put that in there. Who knows if that's going to be right or not either, but we're going to now say save again. And now we'll say test. We'll use that automatic, boom, boom, test succeeded. We'll say test. Okay, so now it's running. Now if we go back over here and do another refresh, we should get the old, hey Shane, you got to do an approval. All right, there it is. And so then now we will approve this one. I accidentally clicked it twice. It looks like we'll say confirm and done. All right, check, 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 check. I heard Chewy get an email, so switch over to Chewy's browser. Boom, hey, so very cool. So it turns out that yes, that function it wrote was 85% there. That's all right, right? We used our Power Automate skills, and that's why it's a Copilot. It got me directionally there. It just needed me to go, right, change the double quotes to single quotes, and then replace the dynamic content with the actual dynamic content. So that's the whole beauty of Copilot. Like, yes, it doesn't get everything right, but because we're working together as a team, it's my job to check it and help it figure out what it did wrong there. But there you go. We have now written an entire flow that is using our dear friend Copilot, and it does lots of cool stuff. So remember with Copilot, right? Work on talking to it. The only way to do it is to practice. This new UI, you have got to dive in here and start clicking around. Like there are new things, we go here to settings, like, what is all this stuff, right? I don't know. Code view, that's just peak. Testing disable static result. I don't know what that does yet. I haven't figured it out. We'll figure it out eventually. But you've got some different things in here, like with your triggers. So you remember I was complaining about how long it was taking. Well, look, maybe somewhere in here, there's something I could change that would make it go faster. I don't know. Things to look at, okay? But we're not going to do that today. So play with the new interface. Remember to always save before you test. Don't lose your things like I did. Remember that Copilot doesn't keep a history. So if you want to do it, like you can have a notepad, OneNote, your hand, right? But write down the prompts that you're using successfully so you can start to see the patterns so you can learn to talk to it better. Now, a couple other things about the new UI. So if we go back over here to just my list of flows, right? So my flows. So like if I go and click on, like this is a flow that I wrote in training class last week, right? So we go here, we'll click on this flow. So up here it says edit with Copilot. And if we click on it, it's going to say, hey, we can't use that. And that's because you used a V1 trigger, right? So there's a bunch of places that new interface doesn't work. And it's going to depend on what triggers and actions you've used. Sometimes it can tell you why. Like I try to give it a really big, crazy flow. And it's like, it just said no. It's like, no, just go away, right? So, but they're working on it. We know that this is going to become more normal, but for your flows it does work with, please check it out. Also, if you go here to create, like right now, there is no way to say create using the new designer, boo. So what I've been doing if I want to create one using a new designer is I'll just go here and be like, please create me a blank flow, hit generate. It doesn't do exactly what you think it's going to do, but basically here it makes up something, right? And what I'm doing now is I'm just going to accept whatever it gives me. Like, cool, you gave me something, hit next. It's going to check my connections. We're going to say create flow. And then once I drop in here, I'm just going to delete all this stuff out. See, I went too fast. See, I'm trying to do delete and it wasn't there. That's because I didn't wait long enough. Now we can delete. Oh, see, then I need to refresh one more time. All right, now can we delete? There we go, delete that. Click in here, delete this one, and then delete this one. And now you've got a blank one, right? And now it says, hey, start with a trigger. So if you wanted to build from here, you could do it. If you didn't want to build from here, not use Copilot, I don't know why you would, but you could. You can just turn that off altogether. And now we just have the new UI. But remember, all the things aren't here. Like if I go to add a trigger, and let's just search for Power Apps, I know this one, right? Only the Power Apps V2 trigger is here, not the Power Apps V1. So if you still want to use the V1, you can't use this interface. So Microsoft is refining. This interface will be the standard at some point is my guess. Like they haven't officially said that, but I'm sure it will be. but it's not there yet. So if all the things you're trying to do aren't here, then you can still go back to the old experience. But if they are here, man, this experience is pretty nice. I'd probably be checking it out and using it a little bit more. Right, so now we just choose V2 and now it's in there, right? Add an input and I can start to build out my flow the way I want it to, okay? So check that out. The other thing that we didn't do, there's one more thing I forgot to do with Copilots. Let's go back over here for real quick for 1 second. Right, we don't need to save this, but you saw how to get in there. So if we go back to our Copilot video and edit with Copilot, okay, now it's loaded. You could go here and don't forget that you can ask it things like, what does this flow do? And hit enter. And it's going to analyze the flow and then tell you what it does, right? So if you have to create documentation or you're trying to get an explanation of some crazy coworker flow, it's another great place to use Copilot, right? So Copilot can create flows, it can add, manipulate stuff, it can help you with the expressions language, and ultimately Copilot can even explain what's going on. So there's a lot of great uses here. So please check those out. All right, that's enough for one day, right? A new Copilot, a new interface. Really cool stuff. You've got to learn. You've got to be using it. And remember, the only way to get good at Copilot is to start learning to speak its love language. And the only way to do that is to practice. So have it build a flow. It's going to go terrible the first time, probably, right? That's okay. Work on it. Have the conversation. They're getting better on their side. You're getting better on your side. You're going to meet in a happy middle. And before you know it, Copilot's going to be writing everything for you, right? So check it out. Deal with it. Awesome. All right, thoughts, questions, comments, leave them below. Also, don't forget, remember, you can email me copilot@powerapps901.com if you want to learn about that new training class. And with that, I'm going to say thanks and have a great day.